Now that we have some console games set up, this time around I would like to look into some PC gaming. Before we get started though, I want to take a look at Controller Companion. Controller Companion is a small piece of software that allows you to use your controller to navigate your Windows desktop as well as your applications. Then, once you enter a full-screened application, it will auto-disable itself. Taking a glance at the developer's website here will give you all the links you need. There is a link to the Steam store, and if you do not have a Steam account, you can also just grab the standalone version on itch.io. Grabbing it on Steam will allow you to install it on any PC as long as you log into that PC with your Steam account. Thus, you can try it on your Replay or on your regular PC. The Steam version also has community-supported configurations for download through Steamworks. Once it is installed, it may mention that it has limited functionality, like shown here. This is because the Xbox game bar is mapped to the center button. Clicking the warning here should demap this button. Once that is fixed, we can take a look at the different settings here. You can set this first tab to your liking. If you are using it on the Replay, you will want to enable Run on Startup. This way, as soon as you boot your Replay and you get to your desktop, Controller Companion will already be ready to let you move your mouse with your controller. In the next tab, you'll want to fiddle around with the settings here and see what pointer and scroll speed works best for you. This might take a little while to dial in, but it's definitely worth tinkering and setting it to your liking. Then, the Profiles tab will let you individually bind all of the controller buttons. It features both a primary and secondary function configuration. Setting up different profiles will allow you to easily change button setups for different games. If we go to the Advanced tab here and we install the Xbox 360 controller driver, this will help fix some mapping problems that you might encounter when you're trying to get your 8BitO Bluetooth controller to work correctly. While I have not tested it myself, it might also work with PS3 and PS4 controllers. Now that everything is set up, we can use our controller to launch and navigate the Launchbox Next interface. Using the left stick will move the mouse. The A button will do a left mouse click, and then once you're clicked into a section, you can either use your D-pad to single scroll an item, or you can use your right analog stick to fast scroll your selected scrollable area. Like if you click in your platforms, then you can use your right stick to scroll up and down your platform. If you click your game list here, once it's filled up, you can again use the right analog stick to scroll up and down your list of games. At the moment, with it being installed through Steam, when I press the Xbox button in RetroArch to pull the menu up, it also focuses Steam. I'm hoping to get this situated when I look into Steam later. If I can't get this situated, then we're going to have to go into the RetroArch settings and rebind our menu buttons, because Start and Select will enable and disable Controller Companion, and the Xbox button will launch Steam. So we might have to change it in RetroArch to make our left thumbstick and right thumbstick click together, launch our RetroArch menu. Now that we have the app out of the way, let's move on. While the Replay is not powerful enough to play everything, there is still a lot you can play thanks to the sheer amount of what is available on PC. I'll try to go in sort of a chronological order here. So let's first take a look at MS-DOS. Here, we will be working with Street Rod 2. For some reason, Launchbox does not seem to move your MS-DOS games over to the Launchbox Games folder. Thus, we have to do it ourselves before we begin. Once the game is set in the folder, we can pull up the menu. In the menu, highlight Tools, and then select Install DOS Games. This will bring up an importer similar to the one from the files to import ROMs. First, type the name of the game to match the name of the folder that the game is in, then click Next. Now, we will have to select Yes, my game is already installed to a folder, and then navigate to the exe in that folder. Once we click Next and then finally Finish, an Edit Game screen will show up. Simply type the name of the game that file belongs to, and Launchbox will go searching for the rest. If you get two results, like shown here, I would always pick the Launchbox DB result. Now that the edit fields are populated with information, we can go to Download Media. This will scrape all the artwork to make everything look nice. After we click OK, the game will be in our library. All we need to do is double click like before, and DOSBox will boot up. Choose your preferred audio and video settings, or press enter to select the defaults and game away. Moving ahead a few years here gets a little tricky. When trying to play a Windows game from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, there are a few routes to take. Some require a little more work than others. The most easy way is to check on marketplaces like Steam or GOG and see if the game you're looking for is sold on one of their storefronts. GOG is run by CD Projekt, who some of you may know has worked on the Witcher series. They tend to be the go-to place for gamers looking for an easy way to play older games, and you can support the developer. They wrap games in DOSBox, taking some of the ones that require advanced configuration down to a click and play. Not to mention that quite a large amount of what they sell is also DRM free. Unfortunately though, sometimes a game you want to play is not sold on a storefront like this. While these titles are playable, they require a little bit of extra work to get running. In the case of Need for Speed here, we have the CD image. First, we will need a program to mount the CD image in a virtual drive. This is where WinCDEMU comes into play. Once the game is mounted, we are going to have to copy the contents over to a folder. Once copied, this particular game needs a patch so that it can run on a 64-bit operating system. Thankfully, games like Need for Speed have a great community, and some users are kind enough to create patches to help us preserve and enjoy these classic games. Once you copy and replace the files to patch the game, it should run. Once the game is booted, it should play like any other for the most part. However, because it was not made for such new hardware, there might be a hiccup or two along the way. You can also set up a shortcut for games in Launchbox. I first tried to use the Windows Game Importer screen, but that seems to just scan your start menu for any Windows games listed in it. Since Need for Speed is not listed in the start menu, I had to end up dragging over the application exe and then import it like I would a ROM file, except select Windows as the platform. Now, let's move on to Steam. First, before we start, we need to make a note of the replay specs here and have modest expectations. The replay has an Intel Celeron J3355. It can burst up to around 2.4 GHz and has a base clock of 2 GHz. It also has 4 GB of non-upgradable RAM with an Intel 500 HG graphics set. With that in mind, if you did not use Ninite to grab Steam, you can head over to Steam's website and download the client. GOG, EA, Ubisoft, and Blizzard all have their own clients, and setup between clients is very similar. Some games are available on multiple clients. Others, like some EA titles, are exclusive to EA's Origin client. Then, on top of that, you have different third-party stores, like Humble Bundle, that offer keys that activate through Steam for less than the Steam store price. So while games are usually cheaper on PC, if you do a little bit of shopping around, you can save even more money. A site called Is There Any Deal keeps track of all the different prices for all the different games across different storefronts. And you can also use steamdb.info to keep an eye on different Steam stats, including game prices and sales. Once we run the installer and log into the Steam client, there will be a few things we will want to do before downloading any games. First, we will need to go to where it says Steam in the top left corner here and select Settings. In the Settings menu, we're going to click Downloads. In this Downloads section, first we will want to click Steam Library Folders. If the replay has the bay installed with a hard drive, you will want to click Browse, find the drive letter that matches the hard drive in the bay, then create a new folder. Select the new folder and press OK. Steam will create a Steam Apps folder in this selected folder. Then it will download and install games to the Steam Apps folder. After setting up the download destination, we can choose a download server closer to our location. This will make downloading games faster. Once that is all set, we can move along. Go to the search bar over here and type in the name of a game that you would like to take a look at and possibly purchase to play. For the moment here, let's take a look at Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Typing the name in and then clicking in the listing here will bring up the game's store page. Once at the store page, we can look over and see that the game offers partial controller support. This tends to mean that a controller will work. However, it may or may not need to have binding set up after launching the game. If we continue to scroll down here, we can get a look at the specs the game needs to run. As long as these specs are under what the replay has, it should run okay. But there can be some hiccups with the replay because it has that built-in graphics set. I have tested a few games, and some, like Bit Trip Runner 2, would just not play audio, no matter what I try. After looking over things, if it looks like the game will run on the replay, we can buy it from the store page here. Once purchased, it will show up in our library. Moving over to our library here, we can type the name of the game in the search list to narrow it down. If our library contains a long list of games from what is on our account and installed to another PC, once we have installed a few games to our replay, we can click the game button here and then select local. This will show a list of what is only installed on the replay. After the game downloads, we can click to launch. After installing Direct Play here, the game should boot up. The screen jumps around a little bit because Vice City is an older game and it's trying to catch up with the resolution it needs to play, but after a while, the game booted. I tried changing the widescreen option and going through different resolutions, but it didn't let me change much. That is about it when it comes to setting things up. If the minimum specs of a game come close to what is on the replay, you may be able to get a game and turn down all the settings to low or off to squeeze out some frames to make it playable. This, of course, is on a game-by-game basis and may or may not work. I hope that these tips will help some console players who picked up a replay get into and enjoy some PC gaming. Then, if you want to get your hands on something a little more powerful for cheap, there are tons of videos out there from people like ETA Prime and Budget Builds on things from building a complete PC from the ground up for X amount of a budget to picking up something like a Dell Optiplex and tossing a video card in. In the next video, I'm hoping to tackle some light gun gaming and using Steam to stream from your existing PC to the replay. This will allow you to play games that the replay can't handle because your existing PC will be doing most of the grunt work. Until then, happy gaming.